to the spray soaked sand, to the field fringed hillside, as you walk this land.
Well, good evening everyone, and a very happy new year to you. We hope that you have had a great start to 2025.
And welcome to episode 9 of Ninebarrow's Wandering Minstrels. It has, once again, been a long time since our last episode.
It has. Apologies for that. I know we say this every time, don't we? We really want to continue bringing you these episodes, but we do seem to have fallen into a bit of a once-a-year pattern, which...
It's better than a none-a-year pattern.
It is better, and I think January does feel like the right time to put this out. The warm glow of Christmas, a distant memory, and perhaps the reality of a few more short days to endure before the spring arrives is starting to set in.
So we're delighted to be here to bring you another episode of wandering and minstrelling in the Dorset countryside.
Yeah, today we're going to be taking you on a journey along a stretch of the Purbeck Ridge, and we'll be winding up, finishing at our namesake hill, Ninebarrow Down.
But as ever, we've got more than just wandering and just minstrelling coming up in this evening's show, so let's have a quick look at what other wonderful treats we've got for you this evening. We take you on a fabulous walk along a 6-mile stretch of the Purbeck Ridge, starting at Grange Hill and finishing at our namesake hill, Ninebarrow Down.
And during the course of the walk, we'll explore some of the fascinating folklore and history in which the area is steeped.
Back in the studio, we have a chat with our good friends Phil Henry and Hannah Martin, otherwise known as Edgelarks, discussing all of their many musical projects.
We'll bring you a song from the Ninebarrow Gig Archive,
as well as news about our next live stream and our upcoming 3-dimensional spring and autumn tours.
And we'll also be announcing the musical lineup for our 2026 musical walking holidays, and oh boy, is it a good one. So, without further ado, let's head over to Purbeck and begin this evening's wanderings.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the beautiful Isle of Purbeck, and we are standing just below the Grange Hill viewpoint.
It's a stunning spot, and chances are if you've ever visited Purbeck, you'll have probably driven up to the car park just over there to admire the view. And what a view it is.
You've got what we think of as the outer Purbeck Ridge behind us, and we're stood on the inner one. And below that, you can see all the way down to the wonderful Kimmeridge Bay to the south.
Yeah, we took you there and to Clavel's Tower in episode 5. And to the southwest, we're able to look down into the Tyne Valley, and beyond that, we've got the ever-present Isle of Portland.
And over there to the southeast, you've got St James's Church in Kingston standing on the hillside, and all the way over in the distance, you have the wonderful town of Swanage glinting in the morning sunlight.
Today we're going to take you on one half of one of the walks that features in volume 2 of Ninebarrow's Dorset. Now, the walk in the book starts a little further west at Povington Hill and finishes all the way over in the Banks Arms in Studland, a fairly epic 12 miles.
We thought that with the instruments and all the camera equipment in tow, a 6-mile jaunt might be enough for our backs and our knees that how do we put it delicately?
Knackered.
Yeah, knackered. I was going to be a bit more polite about it, but that just about covers it.
Yeah, let's just say becoming a dad hasn't done wonders for my lower back problems.
And where is young Joshua, you may be asking? Well, we did think that while he's just about mastered rolling over now, a day's filming with his daddies is still some way off being within his comfort zone. So Mama Whitley has taken up Joshy duties today.
Please be good, my boy. We needed to come back for more. So, in our walking book, this walk is linked to the song You Who Wander,
Which is a song written about nowhere in particular, really, but rather the joy of walking itself and the pleasure that we get from putting one foot in front of the other, and about the joy that we experience from seeing the world in that way.
Yeah, we wanted really to create a walk that would embody that joy.
Joy in inverted commas. It's actual joy.
It's actual joy. And we think this one fits the bill.
It's funny because you might think that a walk that literally goes just in one direction along a ridgeway might become a little bit boring, with you essentially looking at the same direction the whole way, with the Isle of Wight ahead, Poole Harbour to your left and the Purbeck Valley to your right.
Well, if you're thinking that, you'd be wrong. You'd be totally wrong. Whilst those views, they are your constant companions, they develop. They open up, they reveal new little details every step of the way.
And that's why we've come back to this walk again and again. It requires a fair bit of effort, even on a day when you're not carrying a load of filming equipment around.
Yeah, with it being a one-way trip, you've got to use 2 cars or get a taxi back to the start once you finish. It definitely adds a layer of complexity, but my goodness, is it worth it though?
There's nothing quite like setting off on a mega yomp, knowing that you won't be turning back at any point and that you really are heading out into the great blue yonder.
Yeah, and so, with the yonder looking particularly great and blue today, we'd better get going. We told Mama Whitley we were going to attempt to be back before dark, and whilst the sun might have only just risen, if past experience is anything to go by, we're probably going to be fairly close to the wire by the end.
Shall we yomp?
Let's go.
You who amble, you who drift, may your views be clear and your storms pass swift over heath and moorland, forested track, climbing stile and hedgerow, fair wind at your back.
So it's always nice to be surprised by something fascinating / odd when you're out walking, and the structure behind us definitely fits the bill on both counts.
Yes,
I think you'd agree.
It does. It's fair to say the first time we walked this route, we absolutely hadn't been expecting to find a random crenellated arch sitting here on the ridgeway.
Absolutely not. So this one has got a few names. So Grange Arch, Creech Folly and Bonds Folly are all used, though it's the first of those, Grange Arch, which most people know it by in these parts.
In these parts. That's Jay's Cranbourne accent coming through there. Right, yes. But it was built by Dennis Bond in 1746, and it's just south of the stately home of Creech Grange, which was bought by the Bond family in 1691, and we can just see that if we peep over the brow of the hill here.
Now, before the trees of great wood grew to partly cover the arch, it would have been visible from the southern windows of the manor house, showing off the extent of the estate and no doubt impressing visitors with the Bond family's cultural sophistication.
Yeah, it's a little bit reminiscent of George Burt building Durlston Castle, which we talked about in episode 1, a whole faux castle built over in Swanage to essentially host dinner parties. Nice to have unlimited amounts of cash, right?
Yeah. So, if money was no object, John, what would your folly of choice be?
My folly of choice. Money is no object. Planning permission, is that no object?
No.
Okay. Taste, is taste an object?
Okay, you're starting to worry me now, but...
It's not going to be anything racy. Oh, okay, how about this? Made of Purbeck limestone.
Naturally.
Yeah. Polished so that it looks like marble, glinting in the sunlight.
Oh, as the sun comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
A harmonium, commemorating that most noble of instruments.
I did say taste was no object, didn't I? So, yeah.
What about you? What about you, dear viewer? Money, planning permission and taste is no object. What would be your folly of choice? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I think I look forward to reading those ideas
I am looking
later.
forward to reading it. Right, look.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about not diverting from the script too much. And I fear, dear James, we should be moseying onwards if we are going to finish filming today.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's.
We're about halfway to our destination for this first half, Corfe Castle, but we thought we'd pause here for a moment, not least for the fact that this is one of our favourite spots in Purbeck.
There is something just so beautiful about this little stretch of the walk. So we're on Ridgeway Hill, but you've got this dramatic drop behind us and the land rises up again as Stonehill Down.
Yeah, and just kind of beyond Stonehill Down, you've got Barrow Hill as well. It's hard to put into words sometimes when you're on the Ridgeway. The sense of scale. Everything stretches out towards the horizon and you don't always get that sense of just how vast the distances are. But here, you've got Stonehill Down and Barrow Hill beyond, and those features in a way, having them in your middle distance just goes to make everything else, Poole Harbour in particular, just feel even more massive and impressive than they are from other vantage points.
So we're going to drop down off Ridgeway Hill in a moment and then climb back up again onto the next section of the route, which is Knoll Hill, where we'll join the Hardy Way all the way to Corfe Castle. And that's a national trail that features in lots of the walks in all 3 volumes of our walking books, Ninebarrows Dorset.
It does, and it features in lots of them because well, it really is quite extensive. It's 212 miles long. As many of you probably already know, Hardy created a fictional version of Dorset called Wessex as the setting for almost all of his books. And the Hardy Way connects many of the key locations that figured in Hardy's life or in his fiction.
It's got some really fabulous sections to it, and it really showcases the diversity that the Dorset landscape has to offer. And it's actually, fun fact, the first long-distance path in Great Britain to be linked with the works of a great writer.
Well, there you go. 212 miles. What do you reckon, 2 weeks?
For what?
15 miles a day.
No, John, stop it.
No, okay, right, not on these knees.
No.
3 weeks then, 3 weeks. We could do that. I mean, that would be pretty epic. Ninebarrow do the Hardy Way.
Yeah, this is one of your ideas again, isn't it, John? I get very worried when John has ideas. So we just do the 6-mile walk first.
It's a disease.
Let's get over this bit first, yeah?
Okay.
And then you can have all the ideas you want.
Okay, good
Onwards.
point.
Right.
Good point.
And as the river bend by bend to drain our mead and market send, the hanging leaves do take our cows, and trees do shade 'em with their boughs, and I the quicker beat the road to see you coming into view, still greener from the skyline's blue, old Burnley are old.
It's funny, when we were coming up with ideas for where we could go in this episode, we were slightly surprised to find that we'd actually never brought you to Corfe Castle, or indeed Ninebarrow Down.
So we thought that was ridiculous, and we better put both of those things right in this episode. So, as you can see, we've now dropped off the Ridgeway, and we're nearly in the village of Corfe Castle.
Yeah, we love approaching the castle from this direction because most people who visit the area understandably park in the village itself and approach the castle from the main road.
But we've always thought it looks far more impressive when you approach it from this direction, though, and you quite often have the view to yourself because this part of the route just seems to be bypassed by most people, which makes it feel even more special, like you've got this place to yourself for a little bit.
Yeah, as you may have already guessed, we are going to sing you our song Siege in a moment. Now, you could be forgiven for saying, hang on chaps, you've already sung that song in episode 2, and inexplicably you sang it when you were at a completely different castle that wasn't really a castle at all, near Abbotsbury.
You'd be absolutely right, guilty as charged, but come on, it'd be a little bit crazy, wouldn't it, if we sang you anything else standing right here. And it's also a lot warmer today than it was on that day back in 2021.
Yeah, so there is a fair chance we might actually do a better job, if we're lucky.
So whilst our song about Corfe Castle is inspired by 17th century events, construction of the stone keep actually began in the early 12th century under King Henry I, son of William the Conqueror.
Yeah, and prior to that, the castle buildings would have been made of wood, and it's possible that Corfe's use as a defensive site actually goes all the way back to Roman times. And the two forks of the Corfe River, the Wicken Stream and the Barle Brook, those are responsible for cutting the motte out of the Purbeck Ridge on which the castle sits.
And indeed, as we mentioned last episode, the word Corfe comes from the Old English chorfen, meaning a cutting.
Yeah, but as Jay says, our song is very much about 17th century events. During the English Civil War, the castle was left in the hands of Lady Banks while her husband fought for the king. She was left with only 5 soldiers, 4 cannon and her serving women, clearly not a huge force with which to defend a castle.
Now, hearing of this, the parliamentarians initially sent 40 men to relieve the castle of its artillery, but to their surprise, Lady Banks and her serving women managed to mount and fire one of the cannon down at them, and the besieging soldiers, they decided that discretion was the better part of valour and that they would return another day.
Yeah, later, with a much larger force, they besieged the castle once more, and while Lady Banks managed to hold out for 20 months, she was actually betrayed by one of her own men, who let the enemy enter in the dead of night.
Ooh. Now, we feel we should probably point out at this point that given we tend to tout these shows as being an opportunity for sharing local history and folklore, our song can't really be described as historically accurate.
Yeah, but you can't let the truth get in the way of a good song. That's what I always say.
Absolutely. So it's certainly inspired by Lady Banks' spirit of defiance atop the castle walls. And what better inspiration for a song?
My lady's gown is midnight black. On harp and bow she turns her back. With her servants and soldiers 5, she watches as those distant lights arrive. No one's coming when you call. You stand alone upon the wall. No one's coming when you cry. You stand as wall. Or all will die. Those torches wind across the heath and stop before the gate beneath. They demand our cannons, our walls unmanned, or face our deaths here where we stand. No one's coming when you call. You stand alone upon the wall. No one's coming when you cry. You stand as one, or all will die. The starless night begins to fall. She stands beside us on the wall. She commands us fire upon the foe. They'll scatter from the gate below. So we'll ram the powder, charge and ball. We'll throw hot embers from the wall. Place a slow match in the quill. Give fire and blow them all to hell. Ram the powder, charge and ball. We'll throw hot embers from the wall. Place a slow match in the quill. Give fire and blow them all to hell. Ram the powder, charge and ball. We'll throw hot embers from the wall. Place a slow match in the quill. Give fire and blow them all to hell. Ram the powder, charge and ball. We'll throw hot embers from the wall. Place a slow match in the quill. Give fire and blow them all to hell. No one's coming when you call. You stand alone upon the wall. No one's coming when you cry. You stand as one, or all will die. No one's coming when you call. You stand alone upon the wall. No one's coming when you cry. You stand as one, or all will die. What a backdrop. What a backdrop for that. Oh, goodness me.
What we wrote the song for, right?
It is, yeah. Right. It's back to John and Jay in the studio, I think, for some, for someone else. I don't know.
Fun and games.
Fun and
Shenanigans.
games. Shenanigans back in the studio.
What a splendid first half to the walk that was. But of course there is the end to that walk coming up in the second half of the show.
It is. So, this is the point in the evening where we gently encourage you to let us know where you're tuning in from. And the best place that you can do that is on our Barrow Bods Facebook group, where we always have an official chat thread running for whatever broadcast we're doing. And we enjoy scrolling through that after the show and seeing which pets, cats, dogs, hamsters that you are sharing your evening with. It's always good to see that. Let
us know.
Yes, comments fingers, yes.
We've neglected comments thumbs as well, haven't we? There could be comments thumbs going on.
I think comments thumbs appeared first time last year, but it might be that you're watching on the TV but following the chat thread on your phone. I think that's probably what quite a lot of people do.
Perfectly acceptable. Yeah.
So, if you've joined us for one of these shows before, you'll know that we really don't like them to just be focused on the music of Ninebarrow. We like to use them as an opportunity to introduce you all to some new music.
Yes, music that you might otherwise not have heard of, although, to be frank, you've almost certainly heard of these guys before, because a little earlier we caught up with the fabulous Edgelarks, aka Phil Henry and Hannah Martin.
Parents and enclosure took our fathers from the land. They forgot their tongues, forgot the sun on their backs. They did not know their brothers, so how could they lend a hand? They did not know themselves, so how could they make a stand?
Yeah, we've known these guys for a really, really long time. I think we first did a support for them in
2013.
at Bradninch, I think. We've used well, pretty much every opportunity we found to listen to their music ever since. And earlier we caught up to chat about all things edgelarks. Phil, Hannah, it's lovely to see you.
Hi guys, nice to see you.
How are you doing? See, just for context, just tell us where you are at the moment, because you're not at home in Devon at the moment, are you?
No, we're not. No, we normally have guitars on the wall and be in our nice recording environment, but we're at my mum and dad's in Chorley in Lancashire because we're halfway through Gig Spanner Big Band album recording tour.
Oh wow! And so this is a childcare stop off, is it?
Yes. Yeah, the little ones are both downstairs with Grandma and Grandad having a lovely time. If you hear any squawking, that's what it is. But
no squawking from us today, because we've evacuated Josh from the building for a few hours to try and...
We wouldn't get very far if Josh was still in the room, would we? He'd be sort of trying to chew on all the cables that are on the floor at the moment. So definitely, he's with Granny at the moment.
It's definitely safer for everyone concerned, I think. Yes. Right, on with the interview.
With the interview, so I think the way we normally start things off is just asking how you guys got into the wonderful and very weird world of folk music. Did you kind of fall into it together, or did you sort of find each other when you'd already fallen into the world of folk music, or how did that all work out?
a bit of both, really, because I was lucky enough to have quite folky parents, so they brought me up going to folk sessions and folk clubs and that kind of thing. So I started sort of improvising with the violin and playing folk tunes when I was really quite young. But then I went to uni and I sort of didn't hugely reconnect with the scene, and when I met Phil, it kind of reignited the interest a lot more. So a bit of both in that way. How about for you?
I came through through guitar players, really. I very much got into old school Delta blues and that kind of thing, and through that found my way to some fingerstyle players like Bert Jansch, John Remborn, Davy Graham, and those kind of guys. So that was my first experience of folk music, really. And then when I moved to Devon, I came across the Sidmouth Folk Festival, and that just kind of solidified the thing. I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. Saw Martin Simpson do a gig, saw John Remborn do a gig there. I was like, yeah, this is great, and started busking there as well.
Is it true that Steve Knightley saw you guys busking and like offered you a show of hands support gig kind of then and there on the street?
It's fairly true, isn't it?
Yeah, we were busking there. I mean, I grew up going to Sidmouth as well, so it was a special place for me. And then when we got together, it was like a point of real, like, common interest.
You did see us busking, but he, in truth, he'd also seen us on the main stage at Llama Tree Festival as well that same summer. So there was a kind of, a bit more going on. But
he knew we were stage ready, didn't he?
But we were still busking. Well, I was busking with slide guitar, doing kind of blues stuff, you know. It was our main source of income at that time, to be honest. But the next year we were in the hand marquee at Sidmouth with Steve, you know. So he did kind of make it happen for us and took us on a support tour, and you know,
Kickstarter.
One thing led to another, and yeah, he did give us a real leg up for sure.
Obviously, now we first heard of you guys as Phil Henry and Hannah Martin, and you then became Edgelarks, because obviously Phil Henry and Hannah Martin is such a mouthful to say, kind of like James Labouchardier and John Whitley, of course, but it's
we decided.
Yeah, but you saw that coming. Yeah, you did the right thing.
We could have sort of amalgamated our names, but no, we thought Ninebarrow was fine. But the wonderful world of Edgelarks, what's happening with that at the moment? Because you've had a little bit of a hiatus with your wonderful kiddies. Is there anything? What's happening with Edgelarks?
Well, we've got loads of songs. But
That's good.
if I ever have a minute,
That's more than we've
sit
got.
down and write songs. And yeah, but I mean, we're talking. You know, Rose is nearly 4. And so I suppose when I was pregnant with her and it was lockdown, that I was writing songs, And so we've got a lot of those songs that are quite old songs now, really, but no one's heard them yet. So yeah, we have got this kind of long-term plan to work on them, and
There's
as
a
we
few gigs in the diary next year, which will kind of restart the engine a little bit. We did a couple this year on the quiet, didn't we?
Yeah, we're just trickling back out there very, very quietly for the.
Well, my dad saw you guys in Malmesbury
I met him,
at the tail end of the summer, and absolutely loved it. So it's lovely to see you guys getting back out there again. But plans for recording?
Well, that's the thing. What we'd really like to do is, make an enormous big splash comeback by releasing an album. But we have to make the album first, and finding the time is proving difficult. We've got the material. We just don't have the time to work on it in the way that we'd like to. That is going to happen over the next couple of years, so watch this space.
Edgelarks is not your only pie, your musical pie. You've alluded already to the Gig Spanner Big Band. Just for those who may not be familiar with Peter Knight's Gig Spanner, how did this band come about, and what is it all about?
So Peter Knight is the somewhat legendary fiddle player from Steel Eye Span, or ex-Steel Eye Span, but that would be what he's best known for. A really extraordinary musician, and very into his improvisation. And he formed a trio, Gig Spanner. There's three of them. Sasha on the drums and Roger Flack on the guitar and bass. And they were gigging around, and then me and Phil were gigging around as Edgelarks, and our paths crossed. They actually came to a gig of ours on a day off and saw us play in Stratford-on-Avon, didn't they? Which was nice. We were like, oh, in the audience, because I grew up listening to Peter's music, and he was sort of really the reason I wanted to play the violin. So that was very exciting. And they asked us to join them for a few gigs. And those gigs went well, and so we sort of kept doing it. And then through Folk East Festival, Peter started doing some duo gigs with John Spires as well. So obviously he's the Melodian maestro from Bellowhead. And it sort of just ended up making sense that John should also join this lovely conglomeration of musicians. So there's now 6 of us in the Gig Spanner Big Band. And it's a lot of people with a lot of musical ideas to accommodate, and it feels like, in a really lovely way, it's just really evolved, because I think the longer you work with people, the more you refine that relationship, you get better at working together. You sort of have to know people quite well, I think, to feel comfortable enough and free enough to be doing music that's, especially when it's quite improvised. And so we've had the lovely experience this last summer of putting together a new set of material with them, and it takes a while, because also, unlike a lot of bigger bands, I think, we do it very democratically. We're like a sort of anarchist collective, really. Like, everyone has a say, and so it takes absolutely ages to hammer out an arrangement, because 6 people are going, well, I think that should be 4 beats, no 5, look, and all this big discussion. But I think it's worth it in the end. We get something that's quite unique in its approach, I think, rather than someone coming in with a written arrangement saying, you play this. It's never like that. So, and it's always a bit unpredictable on stage, but also adventurous and fun.
Oh, amazing. So you've just finished touring this end of this year, haven't you? But have you got any more tours coming up with the big band, and any albums coming out anytime soon? Yeah, so the autumn touring was to record the album. So we recorded every show. The album for the big band is called Turnstone, and record every show, and then it'll all be mixed and mastered and printed off quite soon. And then in April we're going out with the big band again to actually launch the album.
Oh, brilliant! So hopefully people will be able to catch it out on the road. So that's 2 projects. That's Edgelarks. That's the Big Spanner Gig Band. But there's a third as well, and that's Sykes Martin, which is that's a slightly more recent thing. That's you performing with Miranda Sykes, the wonderful double bassist who's been performing with Show of Hands and various other projects over the years. How did that come about, and when can people see you performing with Miranda?
Yeah, so me and Miranda we've known each other for a really long time, obviously since we did those early Show of Hands gigs, and have played together in various things where we've both been recruited as sort of session musicians, really. And then they were just round our house for dinner one time. Actually, it was just before COVID hit, I think. And we had a jam and we really enjoyed it. So we thought, yeah, let's get the project off the ground. It'll work really well because with she's got little boy as well. And so we thought, well, the dads can stay with the kids and we can do the gigs, you know. And then COVID hit, so it sort of delayed us. So it still feels very new because we've only done a couple of tours, but they've been really successful and really well received. And we made an album. Phil recorded us an album, which was great, and once again very well received. So we just really enjoy playing together. It's one of those where you can really sort of let loose and just really love like singing loud in harmony and kind of that kind of very enjoyable free thing. And
we saw you at Bournemouth Folk Club.
We can highly recommend you guys.
You come highly recommended from us.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
So are you touring in 2025 with Miranda?
Yeah, we are. So once again, there's a plan, an album in the pipeline with that. We are going to be sort of debuting some new material in our tour in 2025, which will be sort of June, July, the tour. So sort of going into festival season, and then 2026 we will actually release the album and tour that.
Well, look, we're gonna share all of the links to these various websites in a moment. But before you go, because you need to get back to your little ones downstairs.
Or not, because you could leave them with the grandparents.
Or,
right?
you could just pretend this is like a 4-hour interview and like have a snooze. I mean, like that could also work, I think. You guys have got a live track for us that was recorded a little bit earlier. Tell us a little bit about the song that you've chosen.
Yeah, we decided we'd play you a song called Song for Caroline Herschel, which has become a bit of a favourite over the years. It's one of our much older songs actually, but we still enjoy playing it. I think it's particularly nice because you get a lovely dobro moment with the solo on there, and it's about a woman who was the first woman in Britain to make a living from science. So a quite remarkable person as well.
Thank you so much, guys, for spending the time having a bit of a chat with us. It's been lovely catching up with you. So we're going to wind back the clock now a little bit and take you to Phil and Hannah's performance of a song for Caroline Herschel.
Sun sinks low, night draws in. Now is the time for stargazing. I left my home, I thought I would die, but then I was sure we're still under the same sky. Singer on the stage, and somebody might hear what I had to say. But then I awoke, I found my life was not my own. My brother took me to look for stars somewhere so far from home. Singing and stargazing, in the end they're much the same. Searching for harmonies in the great dance of all things. Caught between the cold, cold earth and the never, never clouds. dreaming yourself into other worlds. One day I'll find the gods up in their high halls, and I'll ask them how do they ever manage not to fall. I'll curtsy very low through the telescope's frame, and I'll ask them if my life has been lived in vain.
Oh my goodness, those guys, they are just fantastic. And we are absolutely thrilled to have them on the lineup for our 2025 and 2026 musical walking holidays, along with some other incredible acts, which we're going to tell you a little bit more about later.
Yes, so if you want to find out more about Phil and Hannah's music as Edgelarks, you can head over to edgelarks.co.uk, or if you want to find out more about their work in the Gig Spanner Big Band with Peter Knight,
Or if you want to pre-order that new Gig Spanner album or get tickets for their tour this spring,
then you can head over to gigspanner.com.
and last but not least, for updates on all things Sykes Martin, take a look at sykesmartin.bandzoogle.com.
It's a funny noise.
We'll put those links in the comments over on the Facebook group as well. So many of you already know that over on the Ninebarrow shop website we have a repository of many of our previous live streams called the Concert Archive, and we wanted people to have a way to rewatch some of their favourite shows or maybe catch up on ones that they had missed the first time around. And importantly, it is a platform where once you've bought one of those concerts, it doesn't expire, it is yours to stream whenever you like, forever.
Yes, and the other exciting thing is that versions of the concerts on the platform are quite often significantly higher quality than the original broadcast, and our newest addition to the archive is one such example.
It is indeed. Back in the summer of 2021, we broadcast the second volume of a multimedia concert series called Ninebarrow's Dorset.
Yes, it's essentially these were concerts where we interspersed our music with gorgeous video footage of all the wonderful landscapes in Dorset that inspired them.
Yes, and this track is a track that we've only performed a couple of times since we started live streaming, and the version that we did in 2021 was a piano version, which has never been performed before or since. So we thought it might be rather nice to share that with you. It's a song called Island at the Edge of the World, and it's the premise is about the souls of the dead being rowed from mainland Europe to the island at the edge of the world, which is essentially the UK.
Great Britain.
Great Britain, sorry.
the island.
Great Britain. Yes, all right, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's the song we've got for you now.
I kissed my lover tenderly. It was the last time I would see her eyes look deeply into mine. She had been called by the divine. I've wrote 1,000 times before. I take their spirits shore to shore. These countless souls I cannot see. My vessel heavy with you here next to me. My sleep was suddenly cut short. My body drawn towards the port. To where a boat lay in the sand, bound for that strange and distant land. I've wrote 1,000 times before. I take their spirits shore to shore. These countless souls I cannot see. My vessel heavy with you here next to me. When I arrive above that tide, those final moments with my bride, I'll leave her on that green and pleasant ground, where she can lay her burdens down. I wrote 1,000 times before. I take their spirits shore to shore. These countless souls I cannot see. My vessel heavy with you here next. Wrote 1,000 to show these countless souls I cannot see. My back's so heavy with you here next to me.
We did love putting those shows together for you, those Ninebarrow's Dorset shows, and you know what? We loved it so much that we have done a third volume for you, and we are going to be broadcasting that on the 8th of February.
Yep, I've been working on collating a load of new footage to accompany the sets. You might not be surprised to hear that it's not going to be taking place outside like the one you have just watched.
Not in February.
We haven't actually decided where we're going to broadcast from yet, so we need to do that, but we are going to ensure that it is somewhere warm.
Yes, warm and without Josh. So yes, once again, we're hoping to enlist the help of our niece and nephew, Anna and James, to direct the show. So it'll be nice to have some professionals to work with on the technical front just for once.
I think that's a jibe, everybody. I think that's a jibe. Anyway, should we go back to Purbeck, back to John and Jay, back to Corfe, and back to the second half of this 6-mile route along the Purbeck Ridgeway. Welcome back to the second half, and welcome back to Corfe. We haven't actually gone too far from where we were at the end of the first half, actually.
But before we move on to the final section of our route along the Ridgeway, we thought it might be interesting to share another little bit of Corfe history with you. The fact that at one time there were not one, but in fact 2 castles in Corfe.
Yeah, and we are sat on the lesser of the 2, known as the Rings. And this was a medieval ring and bailey castle built by the besieging army of King Stephen in 1139.
King Stephen had usurped the throne from the rightful heir, Empress Matilda. Good name.
Yes.
Solid name.
Solid
Daughter
name.
of King Henry I. Now, he wasn't terribly happy with the prospect of a woman on the throne, and with the backing of the Norman barons, he claimed the throne for himself in 1135.
However, many of those barons broke their oaths pretty soon after, and one of them, a Baldwin de Redvers,
Another good name.
yeah, was tasked by Matilda to establish a maritime base for her planned invasion, and he chose Wareham. But he found himself not able to use that as he'd wanted to, so he moved on to Corfe, where the garrison here quickly turned traitor and let him in.
But King Stephen soon raced with an army to retake the castle, and even though the fortifications were perhaps less formidable than those faced by Cromwell's parliamentary forces some 500 years later, King Stephen quickly realised that it couldn't be taken by a direct assault, and so he prepared for a long siege by constructing a counter-castle here.
Yeah, but while Stephen was distracted here at Corfe, Matilda was busy landing an invasion force at Arundel. And on hearing of that invasion, King Stephen had to up sticks from here and abandon the siege to go and counter that invasion. So we'll never actually know if he would have been successful.
What we do know is that this marked the start of another lengthy civil war, which eventually saw Stephen negotiate a peace treaty in 1153. In exchange for peace, Stephen agreed to recognise Matilda's son, Henry II, as his heir, and Stephen died the following year, allowing Henry II to ascend to the throne.
That's a lot of Henrys. So that's the whistle-stop tale of Corfe's slightly less well-known siege.
Now, the Rings is also named Cromwell's Battery on a number of historic maps, suggesting that it was probably used to sight artillery at some point during that 20 months that the parliamentarians blockaded the castle. So even though Stephen didn't manage to utilise it successfully, it did get to play a role eventually.
Yeah, and so, with that final piece of Corfe history, we'll wend our way up through the village and we'll hop over the A351 to continue along the Ridgeway to our final destination of the day, Ninebarrow Down.
You who ramble, you who range, may the hills you love always be unchanged, and the map and compass always guide you down when the sun's in the west and your path is homeward bound.
We thought we'd pause here briefly on our way up to Ninebarrow Down, not least because we could do with a bit of a breather.
Yeah, but we stopped here specifically to give you less a historic fact and more a bit of Ninebarrow trivia. The path that we are stood on here is the winding track that inspired many of the lyrics to the song Summer Fires. The hills behind the field, the windswept briars, the village church, its tall dark spire. This is the area that I was in when I wrote that song.
And if you're not familiar with the song Summer Fires, then you will be by the end of the show, because of course we're going to sing it for you right at the top of Ninebarrow Down, hopefully before sunset, if we can make it in time.
It's a song about the traditions across Europe of lighting bonfires on Midsummer's Day, sometimes in the high spots around a settlement. And when I was reading about that tradition, I immediately thought of the hills either side of Corfe Castle as being the perfect spot for such a ritual to take place.
People would leap through the fire for good luck, and they'd sometimes lead their animals around it for the same reason. And we just thought that image of people jumping across the fire at dusk was such a beautiful one. And that notion of living for the moment before the hardships of the shorter days arriving was definitely one that we could relate to.
The whole track up to Ninebarrow Down is just beautiful. We're going to press on now without too much more chatter though, otherwise I fear we may end up losing the light.
Yeah, see you at the top.
See you at the top.
Sing with me, sing me something old and light, a flame with a memory. Oh, sing me something new and light, a spark in my mind with a fantasy. I could walk alone, but would you walk with me?
Well, here we are, atop our namesake hill. We always love coming up here, and from where we live, we can be in Corfe in about 20 minutes, and quite often, late on a summer's evening, we get the urge to hop over to Purbeck and yomp it up to the top of Ninebarrow.
Yeah, it's one of the first places we brought Josh out walking in his carrier actually. Just felt like the right place to introduce him to first. I mean,
He did sleep through the entire thing back then, so we probably need to repeat the experience now. He can stay awake for more than a couple of minutes at a time.
He's probably ready for it, isn't he? But inexplicably, despite its name, there are actually 18 Bronze Age bowl barrows up here, as well as one Neolithic long barrow, but I've only ever managed to count 8. Not even 9.
No. One of the most frequent questions we get asked in interviews is, why are you called Ninebarrow? It's a good question.
Well, Labouchardier Whitley doesn't have the same sort of snappy ring to it. I mean, we could have truncated it to the first part of my name and the second part of yours.
Don't
but,
even go there. Don't think about that too much. Don't think about that too much.
Fine.
I mean, we wanted something of Dorset, of the landscape. It's got a castle within easy reach. There's good pubs in virtually every direction, which is also quite important. And my goodness, the views up here are just absolutely spectacular.
So that's why, really.
Just seemed fitting.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit windy on top of this burial mound to do a song, so we're going to go and nip down, find somewhere out of the wind, and give you a song before that sun dips below the horizon, because we are fast running out of time.
Would it ruin the shot if I put my coat on?
Yes. Suffer for your art, Jay.
Okay.
Suffer for your art. To the hills behind the field, beyond the corn our coming yield, and see between the windswept pines the dancing flames of summer fires. Dancing flames of summer fires. You jump high, but I jump higher. We dance tonight across the fire. Jump high, but I jump higher. We dance tonight across the fire. We'll lead the ox up the winding track until we see the outline black of the village church. Its torn dark spire. That beast around the fire. Walk that beast around the fire. Jump high, but I jump higher. We dance tonight across the fire. You jump high, but I jump higher. We dance tonight across the fire. We tie the ox to a hawthorn tree, hitch our clothes up to our knees, as the flames they move in sprightly gardens. We'll hold back winter's slow advance. We'll hold back winter's slow advance. jump, I will dance tonight across the fire. You jump high, but I jump higher, we'll dance tonight across the fire. You jump high, but I jump higher, we'll dance tonight across the fire. You jump high, but I jump higher, we dance tonight across the fire. You jump high, but I jump higher, we'll dance tonight across the fire.
I think we made it just before the sun goes behind that bank
Behind
of
that
clouds.
massive cloud.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We do love to sort of leave it right until the last minute with these last songs, don't we?
We do.
It's a race against the sun.
You'd think we'd learn after 4 years, but apparently not. Well, that's it for another wandering. I think we're going to hand back to the other John and Jay in the studio. Goodness only knows what's coming up next, but hopefully they know.
We hope you enjoyed that little jaunt over the Ridgeway. I mean, I think I say this about every one of our walks that we've showed, but that one was my favourite walk.
They're all we love them all.
Our favourite walks, yes.
They're all great.
But that one, spectacularly so. It's our favouriteest walk.
Favouriteest walk so far, and lucky with the weather. Really,
We always get lucky,
We always
isn't
get
it?
lucky. We always book it in. We always book it in, apart from when we don't. So, if you enjoyed that route, we are going to be running our next Wandering Minstrels experience on Saturday, the 20th of September 2025, and you will be able to come and join us for a portion of that route. We're actually going to be veering to the north. To head over Corfe Common and up to the beer garden of the Scott Arms. That will be our final destination of the day. So if you fancy joining us and experiencing not only the beautiful Dorset landscape, but also a full concert delivered at some beautiful little viewpoint stops along the way, you can find out a bit more about that at ninebarrowwalking.co.uk.
So that's nearly it, isn't it, for the show? I think we've got a few more exciting announcements coming up. So, of course, we've already alluded to Ninebarrow's Dorset Volume 3, the concert coming out on the 8th of February. That is a Saturday, I believe.
Yes. We just need to find a venue.
Yes.
We've got a minimalist spring tour coming up, starting also in February.
Finding our way back with touring again with a little one not in tow. I think that's the thing. We're not brave enough to be taking Josh out on the road just yet. So we're going to be leaving him with grandparents.
Which is why it's a fairly limited tour, because we wanted to be able to get back for him in the evening. So there's some matinees in this tour as well. We're not coming up north. I think the furthest north we get is Nottingham. But in the autumn, we are going to be spreading our wings and bringing our music, all the way up to the northeast, all the way up to the northwest, and a lot of places in between as well. So if you've got to wait a little longer, we're sorry about that, but we're going to be releasing those dates pretty soon as well.
Speaking of releasing dates, we've got another announcement. We've got the 2026 Musical Walking Holidays dates coming up very, very soon. We are going to be releasing them to the public on Sunday, the 19th of January. So you're going to have to be quick though, because we have already filled up 80% of our places for 2026 with our previous alumni / veterans who have been there and done that already and want to come back for more. So if you want to join them in 2026, make sure that you're at your computer at 9 AM on the 19th of January.
Because if you're not, chances are you probably won't be joined. There's a bit of jiggling around happening at the moment with places, but last count there was only 8 to 10 places left. So
speaking of those, we've actually alluded to the musical lineup for 2026 all show, and we've not actually said it yet, have we?
So should we do that before we say goodbye? As you already know, we've got Edgelarks coming back in 2026. Phil Henry and Hannah Martin. They close our walking holidays, and what a treat it is to watch those guys perform. On the same night, we have the fabulous instrumental guitarist Will McNichol. Many of you will have heard his music because we interviewed him back in episode, I think it might have been 3 or 4 of Wandering Minstrels. He's a lovely guy, an incredibly talented musician. On the Wednesday, we've got Nick Wyke and Becky Driscoll bringing fabulous English fiddle music to our banquet barn, and joining them is going to be Lucy and John Hart.
East of England's finest.
Yeah, otherwise known as Honey and the Bear. They are two of the loveliest people, and the sound they make together is just stunning. And we probably shouldn't neglect to say that we're going to be playing as well, with the immensely talented John Parker on double bass. We are very rarely as happy as when we're on stage with that wonderful chap. But finally, we will be having Katie Spencer from the northeast of England, bringing her amazing fingerstyle guitar playing and songwriting down to the barn. But the coup de grace in 2026, and I can't quite believe I'm about to say this, we've only got Bob Fox coming down. So there's a bit of a northeast vibe there on the Tuesday, but he is a master of his craft, and to have him coming down to do a show for 20 people in our banquet barn is just going to be such a treat. I think our best lineup yet. I think our best lineup yet. So that is it actually. We're going to leave you with some highlights of last year's walking holidays, put to one of Bob's tunes. We love the Bonnie Gateshead Lass. It's a cracking tune.
Been on our playlist forever.
It has, forever, literally
so,
forever. So some highlights of last year where we got to spend 3 holidays with what a fabulous bunch of people, and hopefully the slideshow will convey some of the fun that we had together. So
that's it for episode 9. I think we'll see you in episode 10 at some point
in 365
in the future.
days time,
probably in a year. Yeah. But thanks for joining us again. Lots of love, and we'll see you very soon.
I'll warrant you've never seen me, lass, a name I cannot mention, for fear you'll go and tell her how I like her, so I dig. Well, it's just for lads and lasses, for to whisper their affection. The bonniest lass in Gateshead's bonny face has bothered me. The bonniest lass in Gateshead's bonny face has bothered me. Well, the first time I saw her, I thought I didn't know her, but I'm sure I'd seen her face before. I couldn't think of where. Her blue eyes met mine in passing up the high street in the morning, and her look was so entrancing that me heart was my name. Her look was so entrancing that me heart was my name. Well, I didn't see her for a week, and then one night at the bridge end I stamped upon her gown, and the gathers that come away, no, she told us I was clumsy, and I said that I was sorry, and I humbly begged her pardon. I was licked for what to say. I humbly begged her pardon. I was licked for what to say. So I walked on by her side, just as if I had a right today. The conversation first was shy, but then it turned first class. We talked about the weather, and she mentioned that her father was a puddler down at Harks's, oh me bonny Gateshead lass. A puddler down at Harks's, oh me bonny Gateshead lass. She mentioned confidentially that our uncle was a grocer, and our mother's father's cousin was a fiddler on the shore. She talked so nice and friendly, and she looked both sweet and pleasant. I thought I'd never seen a lass so charming like before. I thought I'd never seen a lass so charming like before. She says her mother keeps a shop, she sells hot pies and candy, and her brother, he's a cobbler in the high part of the town. Now she was a dressmaker, and we got on so well together. I blessed her beans.
Okay, I mean, I literally can't believe I've done this 2 years in a row, but we forgot to put the raffle draw in the main part of the show. But I only realised I was editing it and then going, I just have this feeling something's missing. Oh. So this is a bit last minute, but we are going to do the raffle draw from the
Tommy Tippy of Truth.
It's actually not a Tommy Tippy though, is it? It's
No.
a sippy. It's a sippy. The sippy cup of suspense.
Suspense.
How about that?
Yeah, okay.
Now, I've just printed these out rather hastily, they've come out a little smaller than I was anticipating. You'll see what I mean in a moment.
But they might actually come out the end.
They may actually even come out the end.
Shall we wait and see if we can... It's not happening, is it? Oh, it did! Yes! Okay, so the lucky number is...
It is 74. And when I said smaller than anticipated, I thought these were going to be really large.
Show them.
Can you see that? Does that actually focus? There we go. 74. 74. So you are the lucky winner, holder of ticket number 74. Drop us an email, and yeah, we'll be. Well, I say we, Jay. Jay will be very happy to get a framed picture up and running for you. That really is it. That's the end of the show. And I really need to make an effort not to forget to include the raffle draw 3 years in a row when we come back maybe next January. Thank you for watching. Very happy New Year to you. And we'll see you soon. We really hope you enjoyed watching this episode of Ninebarrow Wandering Minstrels.
Creating these shows is a real labour of love for us.
And every episode takes well over a week to create.
First, there's writing the script.
Then there's a pre-shoot location visit to check out where we're going to film, when we usually capture some of the drone footage.
Then we rehearse.
And then we lug all of our gear out on location at sunrise and begin the hard work.
3 cameras, 1 drone, mobile lighting rigs, field audio recording equipment.
Instruments, a battery generator, the list goes on.
And then when we're done on location, we bring home about 200 gigabytes of footage, which John then gets to work on.
Show together, this episode, and you'd like us to continue sharing more stories, music, natural history and folklore, we'd be so grateful if you'd consider making a broadcast donation.
Or you can also support us by visiting our online shop. Every single item in it, from CDs to t-shirts, from framed prints to tea towels, they've all been designed with love and care by, well, us, you, and keep them free to air for everyone to enjoy.
Thank you so much for your support.